Good morning, afternoon, evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm George Moss again here, hosting a program called What's Going On AllPointsTV.com. And I'm here with you every Monday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon live. And you can watch the program anytime at your leisure. That's the good thing about the studio here. They put it up on the podcast feed, and you can tune us in just when you get a chance to have done everything else and you have nothing else to do. we want to be an afterthought. but we are here for you every Monday, and you can catch us live at 2. We'll stay around to 3 o'clock. Today is the second Monday, so that means that after this program is over, we take a 30-minute pause, and then at 3:30 we'll have the program coming on called Satura's Black History Corner, and that program comes on. They stay around for about 30 minutes. From 3:30 to 4, and they'll be in here, and if I don't get out of here before they arrive or soon afterwards, they'll be throwing me out of my chair. So we have to start on time because they come in, and when they come in, they have their program all ready to go, and they want to start exactly at 3:30. And I definitely understand that time is, I used to say time is money, but since we don't have any money in the country anymore, time has to stand on its own. Time is just time. We came here today to talk about maybe a couple of topics, main topics, and we'll see where the conversation goes from that point. I'm going to use a couple of things here to try to back up what I'll be saying, and we'll see how that goes as far as the main topics. I do want to talk, though, about one topic in particular. And that'll be, of course, the what I wrote on Facebook today. And what I wrote was, I don't like to brag about my Facebook posts. But, I'm not in the classroom anymore. And what I try to do now is I try to use the Facebook as a classroom. And I can tell you this, and I don't think I'll be counteracted in what I'm saying here. And that is, I don't think anybody's on Facebook writing what I'm writing. And I try to bring these scholars out of the woodwork to come out and challenge what I'm saying. I know they don't read what I'm saying. So I'm challenging them to come out of the woodwork, stop hiding.
Don't you love it, too, when somebody comes back to you and they're going to try to take you to school, and they don't know what the hell they're talking about?
No.
John, and they just go on, and you're like, okay, yeah. And your point being...
Yeah, right. They try... Some of my former students try to take me to school, but I have to tell them that I didn't stop when they were in my classes, and there are a couple of them in particular who think that they are now going to teach me what they have learned after they went beyond the classroom.
I don't want to go too far, but I'd like to point this out because you are. Some people here, I've heard people say basically, essentially that you're just siding with the white people because whites are on in the power base. Uncle Tom.
Yeah.
But now was there ever a point in your life where would you consider yourself more on the left?
No, because where I was on the side of the truth. The truth. That's what I seek. I'm not on any side of any partisan. The truth is a guide, and this left and right paradigm. That was created by politicians. I'm not a politician, and whatever the truth is, that's why I am, and I don't care who's against it. And I don't speak to those persons because I'm trying to seek favor here and favor on the other side. I have no friend. The only friend I have is the truth. And on that, I have yet to be failed. As long as I can find out what the truth is and I speak from that vantage point, I don't care who doesn't like what I'm saying. And I don't seek anybody's favor in what I talk about. That's been my history. And... I can tell you a lot of stories about that, but those who know me and have been in those places where power, talking about speak truth to power, that's all I know to speak, and that's all I'm That's all I'm going to speak.
No, but don't you find it kind of hard? I mean, you do get behind a candidate on occasion. I've done it locally, and then after they get elected, they just totally follow things up, become corrupt, the first person I worked with was Joe Wilson, no relation by the way to me, but anyway, I helped him get elected, and he turned out to be kind of nefarious. I mean, later on, he's kind of forced to resign, and not seek re-election anyway, because to try to finagle himself out of some little legal hassle, he got himself in the role of being a sheriff, and you stuck yourself out for this person, and now they've done something wrong. I mean, the left I see coming they're like these true believers that no matter what this person, they believe in that person, and I can't when the person's shown to be a failure. Or lack moral resolve. I have to say, they deserve the contempt. But no, the left has a tendency to. They talk about, they make fun of people of religious faith. I don't see that what they have is any much different than this blind this almost like religious faith fervor for these people. And I'm just like shake my head. I'm like, Clinton's example. They should never be in office again.
No, never.
And they should never be anywhere near public. And yet,
I agree.
I mean, especially Hillary. She was removed from the group that was trying to impeach Nixon because she was unethical. All get out. And then she's parlayed that to a career because she married the right guy. And yet she's supposed to be some great feminist figure, an icon. Why? She married the guy, basically let's face it, she'd suffered abuse because he kept on abusing her in the sense of going to have multiple affairs. And she stood by him in that. So it just goes to show you they never cared about each other so much, they just wanted to be a power couple. I mean, it's just, they're abhorrent people, in my opinion.
John, a lot of things are going to come out in this campaign because we have a gunslinger that's at the helm of the Republican Party. And this person is not playing by the establishment's rules, and that's why he's so dangerous to the establishment, because they have certain rules in place, and those rules are being rewritten by the candidate. And the American people are, in fact, endorsing it because they have played by the establishment rules, and those rules have not worked for them. And now Donald Trump is out there, and anything, there's a license, how they say 007 has a license. Well, 00 Donald, there's a license out there right now in the political process, and they're trying to rein him in. That's what that meeting's about on Thursday, as a matter of fact. They're trying to rein him in or find some cover through which they can go back in to support him after getting an understanding to kind of lessen his fire out here before the voters. And then to join it, because it's dangerous to be on the outside of it, because these are people supposed to be the standard bearers of the Republican Party. And I have to tell you something, that party has been taken over by the voters.
Oh my God, we couldn't have that. I mean, remember that Bulworth, the movie that came out with Warren Beatty in it years ago? And he actually said he was an honest politician. You're not going to get any better people until you start actually, what do you give us? You're going to say what you want to hear, but when we get in there, we're going to just turn around and not do it. So, and he was being honest. I mean, it's like, it's like, and that's what the Republican Party, no, we want your paltry little $50, $100 contributions. And we'll send you a sticker to put in your window that you're a Republican Party member,
right.
But how dare you actually think you have a right to say who our candidates are going to be? That's already set for 30 years. I mean, we got it worked out. This guy's going to hold it for this long. The Democrats going to hold it for this long. Then we're going to all party together, do some cocaine on the beach. Yeah, and then we're going to party some more. Then go back like we're bitterly at each other's throats. I mean, that's like I'm sick of the whole process.
It is really no longer business as usual, but I do want to clarify some things even about this campaign that's being waged by Donald Trump, and that is that the people are waging this campaign. Donald Trump is just the mouthpiece for it. The people have had enough, and they are getting ready to take some of the tenets of this country's leadership, some of the claims the leadership is making that's representing the American people, and they have two parties in which that representation plays out. One part of it being carried out by those on the left, and then if you're not one of the person on the left, then there's this group supposed on the right, and they represent those interests, and the two are complementary in terms of the American people being supported and represented. I think that'd be a better word, represented by these two parties, the left and right, or the liberal and the conservative. They have all these paradigms they put in place, none of them mean anything, and they don't recognize any but Democrat. and Republican. There are no Democrats in the Democratic Party, no Republicans in the Republican Party. And all this minutia about Republican in name only, all of them are Republican in name only. There are no Republicans in there. Those terms have a certain definition, and those definitions are not borne out by anyone that's in that party, and they're not talking about conservative. Those persons are talking about the fact that the party has been taken over by the American voters who voted Trump in, and by voting Trump in, automatically, in inverse, voted them out. And they are they're trying to find a third party option right now. And I'll tell you one thing you're not going to hear. Rian Priebus, this is for you. You're not going to hear Rian Priebus, who is the RNC chair, to talk about the third party agreement. You know, they had these persons sign, all 17 of the candidates running. It was really aimed at Donald Trump, as we all know, but they all took a vow also. You couldn't get Donald Trump to sign it if they didn't sign it. And they all took a vow not to run as a third party. Well, you know what? Everybody's running for third party now. Because what was intended was that Donald Trump, of all the ones that was out there, Donald Trump would not be the nominee in the Republican Party, and he's the nominee in the Republican Party. They say presumptive nominee. That's because they have not even accepted yet that he is the nominee, yet he's the only one running, and he's still saying presumptive, because the presumption is that we may even still find some way to make a denial of it at the end of the process. So they haven't even given in at this point. Otherwise, it would say if the only man that's still running is Donald Trump, then there's no longer a presumption of him being the nominee. He is a nominee. I mean, Cruz and John Kasich are out of the process. So how is there a presumption unless they're still thinking about maybe some way that they've not figured out yet, because all the ways they've figured out have been closed down, that they have not figured out yet of how to snatch it from underneath him, which was the intention up to and including the convention. They had really intended that they would be able to take the rug and snatch it from underneath Trump, but that was closed off in Indiana. Now, I don't even know if they realize right now what they did over there to close that down. I had, by the way, and I'll give myself a little bit of credit here, because I like to brag on myself. I'm not one of those persons saying, well, I don't like to brag on myself. I like to brag on myself when I get it right, and everybody else seems to be over here in left field somewhere, or maybe in right field. I had said that if Indiana goes to the poll and vote for Donald Trump's campaign, really voting for the ouster of the rulers from the Republican Party, and that's what they're really voting for. Donald Trump is just the one that's the messenger of that, but he can't vote them out. The American people, the voters, have to take that responsibility on and meet that test, because no one person can do it, nor can one person resolve the problems facing this country. But I had predicted that if the voters go to the poll in Indiana and vote their own interests, which is not the same as the interests of those who are that are lurking in the shadows, actually controlling the political process, making it appear that they relinquish the control to the voters, but never did not do that and have not done it yet. They still have their fingers on it, but the people have begun to cut away at their fingertips. They're still grasping on to the system, and slowly but surely, the release is taking place. And I had predicted that if Indiana goes to the polls and vote for Donald Trump, that the two surrogates that were running in the name of the establishment, John Kasich and to a large extent Ted Cruz, but not really to a large extent. They didn't want Cruz either, but they didn't want Cruz for a different reason. I mean, nobody can get along with Cruz. This has nothing to do with Cruz being a constitutionalist, and they're supposed to be somehow bent out of shape because he is following the Constitution and they're not. So we got We got 534 not following it. We got one person in there that's standing up for it, and they're mad at him. All of them are mad at him because he is the renegade inside the halls of power. But he's the only one in there that's willing to stand up for the Constitution. And that's a construction they have about why he is such an outlaw in this outlaw body called the Congress of the United States. That's so far from the truth. It's laughable. If you're in government, you are inside the structure, and it doesn't have any outsiders. Everybody is in there is an insider, but it may be insiders in different ways and carrying out the inside status in different ways. But if they're inside the structure, they're inside of the structure. You can't be on the inside and be on the outside at the same time. You tell me how that goes on. I mean, not even Flash can do that. And that's not what they're doing. And that's why Ted Cruz is such a pariah in Washington. He's a pariah in Washington because he is, first of all, very difficult to get along with. And you saw that on television every time the guy was interviewed and they would catch him up and jam him into a corner. It was always the interviewer carrying Donald Trump's message. And a lot of people have found out that he has a very disagreeable personality. But beyond that, and I don't tell him about him being a constitutionalist, when his very candidacy is based upon an anti-constitutional posture, because his candidacy was in violation of Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5, which talks about being a natural-born citizen. And you citizen be a natural-born citizen, just so you know, by being born away from the country in which you are to be a citizen in, and be born outside the country and then be natural-born inside that country. That's a contradiction on the face of it. And I have a lot of people get on my wall trying to correct me because they think they have something to teach me. And I have to tell you that you're not qualified for that, nor any of these scholars out here. That's why they don't get on my wall. They better not get on my wall, or it's going to get embarrassing. Not for me. It's going to be embarrassing for them because they have the heavyweights. I don't take their notes because they're partisans. The only partisanship that I ever want to be a partisan to is what is true. And you pick up enemies on both sides of the political divide because they're out there playing partisan politics, and partisan politics is at least one of my worries. I want to worry about whether or not I'm right, and if I'm right, 10,000 angels dancing on the head of a pen doesn't move the needle one bit. You know, that pendulum, as long as it swings to that which is true, I don't care who is in opposition to it. And that includes all my critics, which are too numerous to name. And I want to make sure I keep every last one of them. I don't want any of them to go away. I want them to make their case. And that's when the Shan is going to hit the fan because they don't have a case to make. And that includes all the heavyweights on radio and all the ones that's in academia and all these other places. They have not done. They don't read any better than I do. And if it comes down to what's written, I have an advantage. And my advantage will always be my advantage because I had Mrs. Reed and they didn't. And it wasn't Mrs. Reed so much as it was, and Mrs. Reed was the one that pointed out something that I had not recognized in myself in 12th grade. And ever since she pointed it out by an accusation that she made against me, I have been recognizing it ever since. And that's from 12th grade. I won't tell you how old that was when I was 18 years old, and I'm not 18 now. As can be seen by the by the hair. But that was a long time ago, and I've been absolutely embracing it ever since. So I don't take in the back seat is what I'm saying to them. I call them out regularly because I want them to come out of the woodwork and let's have a dialogue. But they keep hiding in the shadows, and they're not going to come out of the woodwork because they know what I know. That's all of them. They're good in areas where they are. I'm not going to say they're not good in areas there, but they're not going to be good in areas where they're being challenged, and where I'm challenging them, because when I say Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5 forbids Ted Cruz from running for president, and it also Article Amendment 14, Amendment 13, or the Civil Rights Amendments 13, 14, and 15, that declares Marco Rubio, little Marco, from being eligible to run for president. They can argue to the blue in the face, but that's in writing. And if they come out here arguing it, then it's going to be embarrassing for them, because what is written is written. And you can't say it's written in invisible ink. So I have an advantage, because I'm going to say what's written, and they can't make the argument by claiming what's written is written, so they claim it's not written. I'll claim they can't read it, or claim it doesn't say what it says. Natural born citizen all of a sudden becomes non-declarative, and they just cannot understand what that wording means. Yet natural born means it can't be that you're born of your mother, because how many persons, I know we're trying to change it, but how many persons is not born of a mother? You just got through celebrating Mother's Day. So how many of you claimed yesterday that you didn't have a mother, and therefore you don't have to go and buy any flowers, or didn't do it, because that's a dismissive thing also. And I had to congratulate my mother, by the way, yesterday, because my mom left the scene in 1980, but I spent 58 years of her life. She spent 58 years of her life in my life. So I acknowledged that I was natural born, because I was born of my mother, and I recognize that. And I tell you something, those of you who still have your mother, cherish that, because once you lose your mom, you will never forget it. You will never get over it. You will absolutely, even though you have this ruling class trying to make everybody a potential mother, but that's not possible. Because there are some that intend to be moms, and there are some who intend to be dads. And if they get that confused, if the ruling class is so good to get that particular paradigm confused, then they really are good, because that is just built into the natural genesis that's written about by Gerald Massey, and also written into the natural order, which we can all see through using our own senses. We don't need to get a second opinion about it. We don't have to ask the doctor about it. We have to believe in our own brain. I wrote about that today too. But I wrote, before Indiana cast its ballot, I wrote and said that if Indiana steps up to the plate and knocks it out of the park, which was to say to go in and validate their own power away from the endorsement of the power of the rulers, then the rulers have to step down and get their candidates out of there, and they did that. Everybody else was saying they were so surprised that Ted Cruz bowed out of the race after Indiana. I don't know why they were surprised. I had said that they would call a press conference the next day and they will announce their departure. But Ted Cruz beat me to the punch, quite frankly. I had said it's going to be the next day. I knew he had to immediately make the announcement, but they was acting like they were surprised that announcement was in fact made. The only one that fulfilled the time period in which I said it was going to take place was John Castor, because Castor waited till the next day, but I said it would be a press conference called the next day. Ted Cruz announced it the same day. In fact, there was a forerunner to the announcement. They were saying that he has a announcement that would be made, a sobering announcement is the way they put it, that would be made later on that evening once they saw how the votes were trending. I don't know if you noticed it, but the vote was totally opposite of what they said it was going to be. Wasn't supposed to carry women, wasn't supposed to carry blacks. All these persons were supposed to be against the vote, and it was all breaking totally against what they were saying, because you can pretty much go against what the ruling class is saying and take the opposite view of it, like Lou Rockwell says, the person who's over the Mises Institute says, and that is you'd be pretty much correct if you take what they state and go to the opposite position and state that as the premise, and you'd be probably right 100% of the time, because a lot of misdirection goes on, and it goes on all the time, quite frankly. I wrote about that today in one of my best pieces, because as they come out, it gives me an opportunity, quite frankly, to identify what it is that we're looking at, because they're coming out of the woodwork right now. They have to come out of the woodwork in order to defend that which was in place that they're able to defend from behind the scenes. But because they've been called out, not intuitively by Donald Trump, but just by the fact he's running an outside campaign, and that campaign is being endorsed by the American people, it forces the persons to come out. And they are being outed by this campaign. And as they are being outed, it allows those of us who are system, discerners, those of us that are looking at what's being exposed and can understand what's being shown. It's not any big deal. It's just you have to have confidence in our own brain. And they're telling you, not they can't tell me, but they can tell you, and hopefully they can't tell you once you begin to open your eyes up, that to believe in yourself, to believe in your own brain, because they keep telling you not to believe in your brain, but to believe in the brain of other people. I mean, they do that all the time. They'll say, for example, in the commercials, which part of the brainwashing, that's propaganda also, and they tell you in the commercials, for 45 seconds of a 1 minute advertisement, they'd be telling you these drugs will kill you, and then they ask you to get a second opinion about it. After they tell you 45 seconds, this stuff is lethal. And then they ask you to go and ask your doctor if what they're telling you that drugs will kill you, if those drugs will actually kill you. Now, they don't put in those words, but they put it. But the way they express it is saying, go and ask your doctor if this drug is right for you. Why do you need a second opinion? What you need to do is believe in your own brain, because they've told you everything you need to know, but they're telling you not to believe in yourself, to believe in the brain of someone else who they have put over you. And they put him over you by, in fact, regulating and licensing him to speak as an authority. He doesn't speak any more authoritatively than I do. And I'll tell you what I wrote today, and I'm going to have to get to what I want to say here. But I'll tell you what I said on Facebook. I said, because I'm speaking to different audiences, right? And I was telling them why Prince is dead. You can listen to all these idiots out here, one of whom is Dick Gregory, and these tabloids. Prince was not killed by the Illuminati and all of that stuff. Prince was killed for the same reason. Prince is dead for the same reason Elvis Presley is dead. And Whitney Houston is dead. And now Prince is dead. And they're all dead for the same reason. And the reason why they're dead is because they believe that the drug marketers that are on the corners are not peddling drugs that are as lethal as the drug marketers that are on the street. The one on the street called a drug pusher. I have to tell you something here. Little secret. Nobody else is saying this. I'm saying it. In order to push drugs, you have to have a counter. Isn't that true? The drug person on the street, the street marketer, I call them, the one that's pushing drugs on the street corner that doesn't have a building, because the other drug merchants on the corner also, but they have a building. The ones that got a building never call drug pushers. The ones on the street are called drug pushers, but you can't push drugs unless you have a counter. You have to have a counter. Try to push something without a counter. You know what? When I go to the store, I never push when I'm signing, I pay with a credit card. There are some instances when I'm doing transactions, I don't pay with a credit card. I pay in cash. And I do that for a reason. I won't tell you what it is on the air. But when I tip in cash. But when I'm paying for the merchandise, I pay for that on my credit card because I get a kickback, a 1 cent kickback on it. Because the card that I use, they make 4%. They give me, for using the card, 1%, so they make 3%. So I make something in the transaction also. I do it for that reason. But in turn, when it comes to the tip, I don't do that with the transaction on the card. And I do it for a certain reason. I won't say on the air what it is, but I do it with a certain consciousness about why that should go on. Because you see, what I'm trying to do here is something that they tell you that is a no-no. Loopholes and things like that, when loopholes ought to be embraced. See, we're brainwashed and we don't realize how we're brainwashed because the brainwashing goes on 24/7.
Well, like when Clinton was in power, Bill Clinton, he actually donated used underwear to charities to get the deduction. So I mean, of course, you got people out there who'd want his used underwear. I don't know anybody else would want anybody else's skivvies, but and they use loopholes.
Yeah,
and that's like use a loophole. Really, yes, use it. It's there. They're opening it up and they're using it. So you better use it too. Otherwise, they're going to look at you as an idiot.
Yeah, rather than criticizing loopholes, why don't we try to introduce the loopholes to other persons so they can also benefit from it? In other words, by those that are criticizing loopholes, you don't understand how you're working in the interest of the rulers, because the viewpoint that you have planted in your own head, you didn't put it there, is that they have a right to your money. And they're doing you such a favor by allowing you to keep some of your money. And the reason they allow you to keep any of your money, by the way, is because they understand if they take it all, you'll understand your enslavement and you'll rise up. Because slaves, if they realize they're enslaved, they will rise up. If they don't understand the enslavement, then there's a certain pacification in it, and there's a certain pacification in the taxation structure. That's why I keep telling you about how they're going to reduce taxes. Well, if they didn't steal it in the first place, we have to reduce it. You'd already have it.
Well, and you get people out there trying to talk to them about the bad way of how the taxes are collected and the inefficient way they're doing it. They look at you, and I've actually people say, "But I enjoy getting that money back at the end of the year." And I want, do you realize you could have had it all throughout the year if they hadn't taken it out in the first place? Where's the interest? I mean, if you put money in the bank, you're really furious, and most people have to accept the fact that banks don't give you much interest currently, but they're okay with the government using your money, and guess what? They're doing stuff with it pretty much like the banks are. They're making money with your money. So why not get something out of it?
Let's reverse it. Okay, so the money that you get back at the end of the tax season, which they never would put the tax season on the day right before the election, because then you go to the poll and vote them out. But let's reverse the process. Let's say that you owe them some money at the end of the time period in which you file your taxes. Okay, they give you back what they owed you, but there's no interest on it. Okay, you owe them some money. What happens if you owe them some money? You pay a fee. You see, you pay another tax. But if they're paying you, they just pay that which they kept that you were owed, and they return that to you for which you are thankful, never realizing that there's no favor in that, because if they hold your money, then it should be the same process, if it's inverted, that they have when you have their money, quote unquote, as if you have their money. You don't ever have the money of a thief. What you have is your money, and the thief takes it. And I don't think anybody would be feeling that you have to thank the thief if he holds a gun at you on the street level. It's that street corner where the street practitioner will hold a gun under your nose and then take from you, and then after getting your wallet and looking at how much money you have, tell you that, okay, $100, okay, here's your part, and he takes 25%. And he gives you 75% of your own money. You feel like you ought to congratulate him, shake his hand as he walks off with your money. You don't think you should credit him. And yet that is exactly what we do through the tax structure, because we don't see the theft that's involved in it. We see them as benevolent, because that is in your brain based upon something you didn't put there, but they put there. I don't credit them at all. I think that we have to understand is what the process is about, and try to keep as much of it under the legalities that are in place that they put there. If they put a loophole there, use it. Because that's the loophole that they put there that is crediting them as giving license to it, because if they license it, then you don't go to jail. You don't go to jail for it. If there's some loophole that you create on your own and they have not credited, then that could be a jail term, because they are the initiators of that, and they have taken the right upon themselves. Not that they have the right, take the right upon themselves to decide upon the penalty for it. But there's no penalty put upon that which they have given license to in the first place. I give you. I was talking about the drug thing just a few minutes ago. Let me just tell you about that. Let me finish. Let me do something with that. Have you noticed that, Rick James? This is for you. Rick James had a song out. Do you love me, Mary Jane? I'm in love with Mary Jane. She's my main thing. You see, I keep up with all the music now. Don't think that I'm not in all. I go into the music just to see what they're saying. I don't necessarily, I don't buy it, but I mean, I listen to it because I want to hear what the artists are saying. And also the artist formerly known as Prince, but I think he reclaimed his name at the end. I think we call him Prince at the end. But when he had this song out called "Do You Love Me, Mary Jane," Rick James didn't have the right clothes. The right clothes when you pushing drugs, you have to be representative. You can't have your pants down. You got to have a certain coat on, a white coat. I mean, a white sheet. I mean, coat. And you have to, you have to pay your taxes on it. Now, if you don't have any of those qualities where you are selling stuff, right, or you are inhaling stuff, and it hasn't gone through the right routes, and the ultimate route is the tax put on it. If the tax is not put on it, then it's illegal. If you put the tax on it, like what he was saying about Mary Jane before, I wish somebody would do a seance and wake him back up and tell him that he was a pioneer. Because now they got medical marijuana. But what makes it medical and not make it a drug? Can I say this to you? What makes it medical is that there's a tax on it. In other words, as long as the state gets its cut, then it's medicine. And it ceases being a drug. But as long as it's not taxed, I can tell you right now, it's a drug. And they can put on a store, drugstore, and it's still not a drug. Because that's being pushed. Pushed where? Over the counter? You can't. A guy is not pushing drugs when he's handing the drugs to you. That's why I was telling you, when I go to the store, you know what, when they push, you see they're pushers. When go to the store next time and you have your card, right? And you're paying your bill with your card. Notice how they're pushing it to you. I don't push it back to them. I pick it up and I hand it to them. That's out of appreciation for their humanity. I don't push anything to anybody's children, anybody's children. I hand it to them. And I pick it up from the counter, and if they give me a pen to sign it with, sometimes I have my own pen, but if they give me a pen to sign it with, I pick the pen up, and I pick the paper up, and I hand it to them. You know why? Because I'm conversing with a human being. And I do a number of things even in that transaction. Because I got my own brain, and I use my own brain, and I don't let person interfere with that transaction by telling me something that all of you have been taught, that you don't know you've been taught. You've been taught to push things. And that's why you think that when a person handing you something, they're pushing it. You pushing all the time. No, I pick it up and I hand it to the person. And I'm kind of like bowing to the person in a way. I'm bowing to the person's humanity. And they're pushing it to me, and I pick it up and hand it to them. And they look up, they can't believe it. And I'm not even finished with the person yet, because as long as they keep on talking and saying words to me, they're not going to do anything. I celebrate Mother's Day. I celebrate my mother every day. And as long as they're talking about come again and thank you, look, you got to close your mouth, because as long as you're talking, I'm going to talk. And I'm talking back to you through Elaine Foster Moss. That's who I'm talking to you through. I have a Mother's Day, and my Mother's Day is every day. I may buy some flowers on that day. I might go out to dinner on that day. Went to Red Lobster, and they were all clogged up, so I had to go somewhere else on that day. And went to a place that was not as busy, but everybody likes to go to Red Lobster because that's got to be special. And nobody wanted to go out of town, so I mean, I would have gone out of town. I had a place. I was going to go off of Highway 91. But as long as they talk, I'll tell you right now, as long as they talk, I'm going to talk. And I'm talking to them. Some of y'all talk in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and don't even know who that is. And I'm talking in the name of someone that I knew for 58 years, and I'm going to continue to talk in that name. And that's why I stand as resolute as I stand, and I don't care what person think about it. Elaine Foster Moss was proud of this child. And that's just the way it is. So anyway, when I go to the store, and they're pushing, and they're pushing paper, and they tear it off, and then they push it over there, right? If you tear it off, don't just, you could do it this way. You could tear it off and then make the other process different from that. But they tear it off and they push it in there, and you don't see the dismissiveness in it. I see it. But that's not in their head. That's in the head of those who are saying in so many ways to you that you are not to be respected. And that's not their view. That is a view of the rulers. And they're acting behind a counter licensed by the ruler, and they're acting without their even knowledge. They're acting in their name. I don't act in their name because I don't have respect for them. And they know it and I know it. They know I don't respect them and I know I don't respect them. I want them to know that that's true and that I recognize that. That's why the people that are acting in their name, they have not broken away from them, cannot tell me anything. They think that they can. They're not qualified. And I wrote something today on my post that nobody's written in this country. And that's hammer. You can't touch this. So that's the way it is. Look, the drug pushing is what killed Prince. Prince was looking for before he got on that plane, he had gone to 6 miles out. He was going to a drugstore. In fact, these persons, like Michael Jackson, that Conrad, what is his name? That guy. Well, what these guys do is they hire a doctor, because the doctor can get the meds. Call them meds when the doctor's pushing it. They can get the meds. And Michael Jackson was paying this person, was it $150,000? I think it was a year. It could have been more. It could have been. Some people have said there's more than that, but I think we're paying him $150,000 a year. The reason why they do that is because they have confidence that if the doctor can get it from a place that is in fact licensed, and why is it licensed? Let's go by notes. Did you write notes on this? It's licensed because it's taxed. You're giving the drug dealers, the ones behind the drug dealers, their cut. Their cut is the taxation on it. They license because there's a tax on it, and they get their cut. So the drug pusher that's at the counter is pushing it based upon the person that is in fact that they're paying to allow them to do that. And they think because it is in fact licensed that the lethality of it is reduced or removed. But if it's removed, then why are they in the commercials of it taking 45 seconds out of a minute commercial and telling you the lethality of it, and then asking you as if you don't have a brain to go and ask your doctor for a second opinion, as if you can't think for yourself. Now that is not a thought that's in your brain that you're born with. That thought is planted in your brain. Because you were relying upon your own lungs to get attention in the past. And when you were not being taken care of, you disturbed the whole world. And you had to be trained, hey, not so loud, not so loud. You're in the public place, stop screaming. You had to be taught that, because when your needs were not being met, your Maslow needs were not being met, Abraham Maslow's needs were not being met, then you disturbed the whole world in order to get it. And you were told to pipe down, like Andy Griffith, pipe down, Andy. You were told to pipe down. And you piped down in order to make sure that you were not a disturbance. Why? Because the rulers may hear you. You might disturb their sleep. And that's what you've been taught. And regulating it underneath the banner of you're not to be in charge of your own space. You're not to be sovereign. You're to understand the sovereignty of others. And that's not all bad. Now, I'm not saying all that is bad. Part of it is the civilization mission that the adults are on. If they play that role well, then you're not raising barbarians, and that's a good thing. But you have to understand the limits of it too, in terms of everything that has a medicinal influence. It also has the alternative influence as well, because in every good thing, there's also the devil, which is always in the details of it. If the details are not understood, then everything can go beyond that to go into another extreme, which is not so good. In fact, it'd be the very opposite of that, because everything has its opposite in it. That's, you know what I'm saying there. So we're looking at a lot of manipulation, aren't we? In terms of how we are manipulated, and we're manipulated all the time, lest we wake up. So the manipulation has to go on 24/7, because anytime that the manipulation is not in the Genesis, in the natural order, then people can in fact snap out of it. And you want to make sure that doesn't happen. And so the propaganda is a constant in the environment. And Malano, the philosopher, would say, and I would agree with him 1,000% on this point, is he would say that in order to get away from the propaganda, as it is in fact intended through the television set, for example, in the commercials as well as in the programs that they put on, that the commercials bring on, that the propaganda goes on 24 hours as long as you have the television set on. And you may have noticed how difficult it is to turn the television set off, even if you're not in the room. Or if you're going to bed at night, you leave it on overnight, because it's very difficult to turn off, unless you miss something that they want you to know that you would not know if you turn it off, because you can actually hear what they want you to know even while you're sleeping, and it's difficult you turn it off. A lot of persons, I mean, you used to have that one commercial where the lady was in the bed and she would clap and turn it off. Very few of you were using that device. You might use the device to turn off your lights. But there was also, you could attach that also, turn your television set off. She was using the commercial to clap and turn the TV set off. I bet very few of you did that. That TV set is on a lot of, you'd be surprised how many homes that is on, where people cannot turn the television set off. They go to sleep with it at night, wake up in the next morning, keep it on all day in one of the rooms. And they have a TV set in all the rooms. And if you go into the restaurants, I was in a restaurant with a friend of mine. We went down to this one place, and there was just a line of television sets. I mean, we were sitting on one side, and there's all the TV sets over there, and people sitting on the other side and looking this way, line of TV sets that way. You never get away from it. But what is that about? The surround sound? No, surround propaganda machine. And your turning it off is almost impossible, because when you ride in your car, you're turning on your radio. So surround sound is you're being surrounded, but what sounds you were surrounded by? You know what I would like to see? I would like to see the person that is that voice that's talking so calmly off camera while somebody's playing with their dog or sitting on the couch, playing some basketball sometime, while the guy's telling you about what the drugs do, and he's talking in such a calm voice. I want to see that person come on camera. Let me see who that person is. Because I want to find out how that person can be so calm talking about the lethality of these drugs and then telling you that this stuff is going to kill you, and you're not excited about that. I don't hear no hysterics.
I've tuned in, just flipping through the channels. I heard about, where they go through the list of possible side effects. And I'm listening to it, and then all it was is medicine to deal with acne. I'll take zits. I'll be pizza face. I don't care. I'm not going to die because I'm not socially acceptable. But I mean, they talk, you could lose this, you could lose this ability to do this, will cause the possibility for a respiratory infection. And I'm listening, I went, this is then they said for acne. I went, so you're not you're not gonna get invited to the prom. That's a small price to pay to live, okay? So be pizza face. I mean, that's what I look at.
Let me help them with that. I'm not practicing medicine here. I want to make a disclaimer right here on the air. I'm not practicing medicine. I'm not licensed. You have to do a disclaimer here, because they licensed, because that's a tax. You want to get rid of the zits? Okay, good. Understand this. You're not a cow. And therefore, you're not supposed to drink cow's milk. John, can I get some tissue? You're not supposed to drink cow's milk because cow's milk is mucus forming, and it also has in it glue. You know, go look at the bottom of your glass sometime, you'll see it. You'll see the casein at the bottom of the glass. They're taking a lot of it out because they process the milk a little bit different right now where you can't see it. But your body, when it's trying to purify, it is constantly trying to get rid of the mucus in your system. And one way it does that is that it expels the mucus through the glands. And one of the biggest glands you have, one of the biggest, which you want to call it a muscle, is your skin. Excuse me. And you have to be aware of the body trying to purify itself, right? And it's trying to get rid of the disease in the body. That is to say, the disease is the fact that the body is trying to expel that which keeps it from being at ease with itself. Disease is just the body not being at ease with itself. And everything we're doing is bringing about that disease. But you know, the great one has put in it certain preventatives so that none of that kills you, but it calls your attention to the problem so you can deal with the problem. People think they have to now get rid of the zits rather than getting rid of what is causing the zits. So now got some other stuff that can save you because of that problem, when really you're spending too much money on the stuff that is out there, and if you just stop buying that which is causing it, then you've already dealt with other stuff where they can't escalate the sales and sell you something else. But you know, you're not supposed to be able to trace it back to the source because they're not telling you the source. They're telling you to go ask your doctor if this is the right thing, and the doctor is going to say he's licensed. That's 007, so he's licensed. So what is he licensed? What is 007 licensed to do?
License to kill.
Yeah, and so what is that? So what? You license somebody. Why you license them? If a person is being licensed, what is he being licensed for? What does the state want? What does the state want to do? Every time I hear the state telling me that, I hear somebody telling me that somebody in the state kept us safe, you know, I want to. It almost makes me want to, throw some at the television set.
Well, like they'll say that guns got to be banned because so many people die each year of gun violence, right? Then they say they don't talk about the 196,000 people that died because of misdiagnosis and bad medicine given to them. 196,000 is way more than it's done in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of handgun violence. And I mean, and that's like the fact, and like, well, Milton Friedman was against licensing because he said he really didn't see where it was going with that. I mean, you're licensing things, but how is there any follow through? Is there much oversight? Is there and the person meets that qualifications at that point? Does that mean they're going to be always on ball and always on guard and always doing the best? No. So I mean, licensing is not something that should be taken as a sign of a seal of approval. Basically, they had enough money to cough up to pay the licensing board.
My dad was a pastor. I never forget that I asked him one day when I was visiting. I didn't live in the home with my father. I was raised by my mom. But I was visiting my father in the summertime. I was in Birmingham. He was in Detroit. I visited him in the summertime. And as a little boy, I would ask my dad. My dad was talking about his shotgun. So I would say, Dad, you're a preacher. How are you relying upon your shotgun when you have a personal savior? And he said, Jesus is my savior. But my personal savior, in terms of my interaction, is my shotgun. And he explained that to me, and he told me that any reasonable man will listen to his comments about Jesus. But if they were not reasonable, then he would have to use a shotgun. So I think I was about 8 years old when I learned that lesson. And so whenever you hear the rulers talking about taking your personal savior on the human plane from you, they're not talking about keeping you safe. They're talking about keeping you unsafe. And the reason for that is very simple. By keeping you unsafe, they have a way of injecting themselves into the personal space that you ought to, in fact, occupy to the exclusion of the government. The government has a way of wiggling itself into space that is, in fact, that void that is, in fact, created and claimed as relevance because of your insecurity, because you're not able to defend yourself. Like, for example, in California, where 24 persons died because the government was keeping them safe, but they weren't allowed to they were not keeping themselves safe, particularly in California. Or in Paris, where they have some of the most restrictive gun laws, where the 130 persons that were killed, were they kept safe? No, they kept unsafe by their government that took their guns from them. And they're trying to deal with it in England by doing what they did last week? Well, they turned the whole city of London into Neville Chamberlain. They're feeling unsafe and they don't have their guns and they cannot defend themselves. So what do they do in London, England? They've elected a Muslim as the mayor of the city, which is nothing other than capitulation. Not saying that all Muslims are violent. I'm saying but what I am saying, and I'm saying it as clearly as I can, and I don't need to clear my throat in order to do it. What I'm saying is that was capitulation. It's capitulation because they think that's going to stop the rapes. 1 million people have been raped in England by these barbarian hordes, 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 that have been allowed into Europe by criminal leaders. Cameron, that's you. Hollande in France, that's you. And Angela Merkel in Germany, that's you, to the exponent of 10 squared. These people are politicians, and each one of them is a criminal. Most politicians on the planet are criminals because they have nothing to trade with. You see, people that are not criminals are involved in trade. Those that are criminals are involved in force. And you can always tell criminals because criminals will inject force in the place of trade. Trade is not force. Trade is where both parties that's in an interaction with each other must be satisfied on both sides of the transaction. And if neither one is satisfied, then the transaction cannot go forward. And government never is involved in negotiation. Government is not reason, and government is not negotiation. Government is force. And no better person said that than George Washington, the great president that we had in this country. And there is none other that can stand with him, above him, or on the side of him. He's the only one. The rest of them didn't get it right. Okay, well, read my article today, because in the article that I wrote, I said some things there that's not been said before anywhere, and I want you to stay tuned to these things, because we're going to begin to unravel some things as they become more out in the open, seen, but maybe not understood. And we are trying to clarify that for those persons that are really trying to get an understanding of their world. Until next time, we want you to follow your dream, because if you don't follow your dream, you'll never know what's on the other side of the rainbow.